Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a project and a template. This is the starting page that you get to when you log into the platform, and to create a new project you simply press this button and choose blank project. Then you get to this view, and this is where you create the project, where you add the project name. So I'm just going to add a name which is test project, like this. And then you have on the left here, you have all the interview stages. On default, we add introduction because we encourage you to have a starting introduction to your interview to set the tone of the interview. And of course, here you can use templates. Asker has provided you with some templates that you can use, but you can also create your own ones. So I'm just going to add that one right now. And then when you press add interview stages, you get all of the different stages that we have in the platform currently. And we divided them into 3 different areas. So it's structure, and here we have introduction and summary. So the introduction is already added, and the summary we can add at the end of the interview to sort of summarize it and end the interview. And then we have the 2 other option, which is evaluation, which is more questions based, sort of things that we want to evaluate the candidate on competence, experience, or hard skill, whatever it could be. And the last part is attraction, more focused on attracting the candidate and talking about maybe the company, the role, talking about salary, and giving them the opportunity to ask questions. So you can build your process simply by adding the step that you want and then adding questions to each step. So I can give you an example just to get you guys going. So if I choose competency questions, it looks like this, that I get a whole list of questions like this. And the green one indicates that it's a question that we've added in the platform, and you can actually untick that to see only questions that you've added to the platform. So in this case, we have a user that has also added some of their own competency-based questions. But for now, we can have both. And what you do is that you can do a few ways to getting questions that you want. You can either search for a term. So maybe we're interested in something that revolves around planning. Great, then we get all questions that have the competency planning. And also if there's any other questions that might revolve planning, but that's not just tied to planning, it will show up here. So maybe we can have a different version. It could be goal. So for instance, goal works both for result oriented, but also for collaboration. But they are, of course, evaluating very different things. If you don't know exactly what you're looking for and need some inspiration, you can actually press the 3 buttons here and get the entire framework up. So we have a competency library where you have all of the questions, all of the competencies that we've added. So the competency, and you have a definition here on the right. Makes it a little bit easier to filter, and you can choose competency areas that you think is interesting. So you can do service oriented maybe, and communication and initiative, for instance. And then those are the questions that pop up here. So it gets a little bit easier to narrow it down. When you choose questions, you simply press select. And you can see here on the right, and it builds up the evaluation criteria. So now we see that we added 3 competencies. So it's communication, initiative, and service oriented, and they make up 100% of the profile so far. We can also scroll down a little bit to do a few things. We can change the time we think that that question will take. So if you think that this question might take a little less than 5 minutes, we can update that so it only says 4 minutes. And that will also affect the overall time as well. You can also change the question. If there's a wording that you don't appreciate or you want to change it a little bit, you can just go in, change it, add something specific to your organization, change a follow-up question, or whatever it could be. And when you think that, yeah, that looks good, then you can also just save it, and it will be saved like one of your questions, which is very nice. You can also do something which is cool, which is that you can add a tiny note to the question. So when this question pops up for the person doing the interview, they will get some information. So maybe it could be, make sure to ask questions about this, make sure to deep dive in this, and make sure you don't miss this. So sort of you communicate with your future self or with the person that will conduct the interview. And that can be a really good way of making sure you gather the information that you need. And this can be essentially even more important maybe for when discussing salary or discussing specific things that you need to make sure that you get the right information. Anyway, let's say that we're happy with competencies. We can, of course, add more steps. We can add maybe if there's any sort of hard skills that we really want people to have, we can just add them as well. So we add them to the system. And as you can see here now, that changes, of course, the evaluation criteria. So now we have added 2 hard skills as well that show up and make up a part of the evaluation criteria. And same thing happens. What you can also do, of course, is to add screening questions. So more yes or no type of questions or range questions that we have a few options for, maybe more for using in an early stage interview to ask, do you have a car, do you have a driver's license, and so on. Maybe important things that you need to check before you proceed to the next part of the interview. And then down here we have another option that we call attraction, as I mentioned earlier. Of course, you can add a company presentation where you can either upload a file, maybe you have a company presentation you want to show, or you can enter text, something that you want to make sure that you provide. And then we have salary. And that is a thing where you can sort of set a budget range. So maybe you have an allocated budget for this role, and you can simply enter it. So 35,000 to 40, maybe, for instance. And then that will show up when you have the interview. You will see the range. And then you can ask the candidate what salary they want and see if it matches the range that you have. And here again, you have the thing that I mentioned earlier when I talked about the question, that you can add notes. Here's a great place to enter notes. Maybe sort of remember to mention our other benefits as well. So this can be a reminder for the person doing the interview that they can mention something about the interview, the other benefits that you have, of course. I did it very quickly again. I can show it again. Just if you want to delete something that you added, you simply press the 3 dots and press delete. Then that disappears. Then we have candidate questions, which is, just to make sure that you allocate time for the candidates to get the chance to ask a few questions. You can also add notes, but it's more of a time slot now more than anything. Before you create the product, of course, you can do a few things. You can always go back and edit products, so you don't have to worry about not doing everything perfectly. But it's very good to make sure that you have the skills and the competences that you need and so on. And what you can do is, of course, also change. You think that, I think the hard skills make up a little bit too much of this evaluation criteria. You can actually press this edit button and you can see all of the things that we've added, and you can actually weigh them differently. So say that we think that it's not the most important thing about real estate agent systems. So we can actually bring that one down a little bit. Then you see that the other ones increases, whereas this one decreases. And you can actually use this to, get a profile that you think really suits the role that you're looking for. And then you save it and it updates. If you want to look at how the interview will look like before creating the product, you can press the preview interview. If you press that one, it opens up in a new corner, actually. A new tab opens up and you can try out the interview. And see how that one, how the interview looks like before making any changes. Maybe you realize you want to have the questions in different order or something. The last thing you do is just to add the interviewer, who is the one who's in charge. And if you have multiple interviewers, you simply add more interviewers. And when you're done, you press create. Then you get the option, of course, to save this project as a template. So this is the thing I said in the beginning, that if you want to, this is the same way. So you can create a template from a project. And if you press yes, this product will be saved as a template, so you can reuse it for the future. But maybe in this case, we don't want to use, it's a one-off project for a very specific role. So we press no. And that's it. That's all the things that you need to do. I can just quickly show you what it looks like if you use a template. So you press create product and then you press use template instead. And then you get all the templates that you have. You press the one that you want and all you need now. So everything is already fixed. You see, you have all the questions, we have all the steps, everything has been added. You might need to do a few certain things just to make it specific for this product. So like maybe you want to change the salary or whatever it could be. Give it a name and then you add an interviewer and then you create it and it will be created as a project. So it's a very easy way to get started very, very quickly. So just a summary, you create product by pressing here and then adding the interview status that you want and adding the questions that you think are great for this role that you are hiring for. And you can also create the product as a template. You can actually press templates up here as well and create a new template. But it works the same way. Great. Good luck.